Okay, we're live.
Hey, welcome. Welcome to the webinar today. Join us for the next 60 minutes. We're going to talk about a real hot topic. Talk about how to grow your marketing's contribution to sales. And today we have Edward Esparza with us. He's joining us from Market 8, a growth optimization agency, and he founded the firm. So I'd like to introduce Eduardo to you. Thanks for joining.
Thanks so much. Glad to be hosting one of our first webinars here at Market 8. And today I want to talk to you about this big concept of increasing marketing contribution to sales. Here from conversation from our clients, prospects, and peers in the industry that this is a major concern about how to do it and how to approach it. And let me first, tell you a little bit about my background. I founded Market 8 back in 2008. This is my third company, and we have focused, my early career on industrial engineering. I started my career designing factories and distribution centers, and jumped through a lot of different lives, if you would, from business to business management, finance modeling, logistics, etc. So I have a very outside of the web background, which brings an interesting perspective because I see everything as a process. So throughout the presentation, you're going to see how the concept of processes seems to be more relevant than ever for marketing. Been looking at a lot of companies, websites, and landing pages for B2B and B2C high ticket. So that's what we specialize on. And I write regularly on Conversion Excel, and people call me usually Double E. My Twitter handle over there is I am Double E. So let's dive in. You're probably familiar with a conversation like this, if not in your own firm, firm close by you. Sales ask marketing, hey, how's that lead gen coming? And then marketing typical answer has been for now a few years, it's going great. We've generated 2,522 marketing qualified leads this month. And then it comes this old humongous lead dump that goes into sales, and then sales gets somewhat discouraged because only a low percentage of those are really qualified. So at all costs, the new name of the game is to avoid the lead dump. Avoid the lead dump because it just introduces so many inefficiencies in the process to a point that it drives a complete disconnect between sales and marketing. So marketing, as it's being perceived more and more, is really sales. It's only a little bit earlier, and the expectation seems to be now that marketing needs to have a direct responsibility for contributing to sales, and it looks less and less like a lead factory. So this lead generation machine theme that seemed to govern the marketing departments of companies at all levels for many years seems to be fading away because they're finding that the process is quite inefficient. So marketing needs to become a lot more efficient in the processes, much more targeted. This is what we've seen. Sales 20 plus years ago is driving most of the leads, not 100%. If not 100%, and marketing is seen more as a branding thing, quote unquote branding, even for B2B. Today, marketing seems to be more and more responsible to drive most of the leads. I mean, in some occasions, I heard numbers above 90%, and actually contribution to sales above 60, 70%, and some SaaS companies are closer to 100%. Sales actually sourced by marketing. And sales and marketing are seen more and more as a one team, and they have to be connected. I mean, every day for the last few years, this conversation has been top of mind. It's more true than ever now as these two functions become more integrated. So as I say, marketing is entering in this new era, if not, it already entered in this new era. It's going from more generic and waterfall effect to more specific and targeted, from more art to science, more numbers driven, and really experimentation driven. As you can see, the progression started with PR more than a decade ago. Then about 10 years ago, it was all about SEO, SEM. Everybody that was the name of the game. Get on the first page of Google, and that's it. Then things transitioned with the introduction of inbound marketing and the going into mainstream of inbound marketing and content marketing. Everybody wanted to be a thought leader, and companies started pumping out content like crazy, right? And this hopes to get more eyeballs. A lot of sins were committed because a lot of content turned out to be just really low quality, and ended up backfiring in inefficiencies and even brand perception to some extent. Then this whole idea of funnel optimization, and more recently, hyper-personalization. And this is when marketing starts looking more like sales, really looking at, okay, let's step back for a moment and really look at who we're going after. This concept of ABM, I call it SVM because that's where the area where we play in is not really account-based marketing. That's more for enterprise, but the companies and clients that we have a lot of experience with is SVM, or segment-based marketing, really targeting a group of customers with certain characteristics that are not necessarily enterprise sales yet. And as I see it, the winners of this game are going to be those that really focus on continuous growth optimization, which means taking this scientific approach to all aspects of marketing. And this seems to be, what delivers consistent results, predictable results, and really contribute to growth in the long run. So here's an interesting statistic transitioning into this concept of conversion. Okay, think about this: for every $92 spent on acquiring a lead, only $1 is spent on converting it. Can you imagine? And the amount, just think about all the budget that is going into acquiring a lead or getting an eyeball. Okay, all this marketing and advertising. And I've heard horror stories of having, companies that are spending literally tens to all the way to hundreds of thousands on advertising online, and only a fraction, if any, of that in optimizing the pages that this traffic is going to. And this applies only, this is dramatic because you're paying for that eyeball every time, but it also applies for content marketing. How many times we see a lot of agencies and companies really focus on the next campaign, and we have to get the next campaign out, and really paying very little attention to what happened to that campaign just 3 months down the road. Coming back and look at, did people really connect with this, or can we tweak something? Did it really perform well? And we can take it even further with conversion optimization or growth optimization. If it's an email campaign, can we look at that email flow and see what's the weak point and how to improve the click-through on that email, and how to, bring the buyer closer to the end of the funnel. So this is a conversation that is not very popular because this process is difficult. It's like much more fun to just go focus on the next campaign. But it's an area that there's a lot of dollars there. If you're not doing it, definitely this is something you need to explore because your funnel is leaking money like crazy. So I have a quote here from Tim at Hyde Park Venture Partners, and he's like, venture capital is specializing on software companies, on SaaS. It's like marketing needs to be generating 50% of the revenue in your SaaS. If it's not happening, then you need to go back and relook at your activities and your priorities, because this is the name of the game. I have another quote from MongoDB VP, and she says, most of your leads will come from your web properties, up to 90% in our case. Optimize the funnel, enter, accelerate, and acquire. Notice she doesn't say move through the funnel, she says accelerate through the funnel, which is a very interesting concept. Her name is Megan, again, it's like CMO of MongoDB. Then this is one of the persons that I follow very closely, founder of Pardot. Pardot accelerated into hypergrowth by crafting, tuning, and continuously improving to specific, well-defining segments. Messaging, okay. So Pardot is now 9 figures in revenue, so it was very successful. And the formula that they followed and continue to follow is hyper-targeting segments. So really, really specific segments with a lot of attributes that define a very specific or signal a very specific need. Then I have a quote from Eric, the author of Lean Startup. So the only way to win is to learn faster than anybody else. So what's the common thread here? Well, in my view, the common thread between all of these quotes and entrepreneurs and CMOs nowadays is about really focusing on growth, having marketing really focus on growth. And as I see it, growth is a result of optimizing web properties over the long run, systematically and continuously. A lot has been said about the Lean Startup, Canvas methodology for business modeling. I see a lot of that applied to several aspects of business, and each one of the domains of a business, and marketing being, what drives revenue nowadays. This concept is perfectly applicable to marketing, and most marketers and agencies, are very, very familiar with the build part. Very excited about coming and launching that campaign and putting it together and doing the creative and making it look great and launching it and sending it an email blast or setting up that drip campaign. What it seems to falter is on the other two areas of the Lean Startup. You have to measure, you have to reflect and learn, and then either rebuild, retouch that same thing you did, but a level above. And you keep doing this circle forever, and that's how optimization is systematically achieved. This was an interesting statistic by Forbes magazine here. It says growth-driven marketing. Companies doing that are 3 times as likely to grow market share significantly. So they did a study across hundreds of companies and found out that companies that are doing these kind of things like agile marketing, continuous improvement, learning, growth optimization in their marketing departments just simply are growing and acquiring market share at a much faster rate than all the others. So I'll pause a moment and see if we have questions. Ginger?
Yes, we do have a question. It seems we're getting a lot of feedback that people do understand the value of continuous improvements and optimization. But I'm getting a question that people say, so they know their buyer, they do have segments now, and interested in, how do you accelerate that funnel? Where do you start? Where do you start?
We'll go into some of the things that we can do specifically to accelerate, okay? But a lot is rooted on how the segment is defined. Because the people, the reason people don't stop converting or stop engaging through the funnel has a lot to do with the messaging stop being relevant to them. And that's usually a function of segmentation or sub-segmentation, maybe in that group that seemed somewhat segmented or appear to be segmented. Maybe there's subgroups inside that. So how do you identify exactly who are you speaking with and make sure that the message that is reaching that one individual is as relevant as possible? And how do you put it in front of them in which mode? If it's email or maybe connect on social, or if it's via a video, what needs to be done so that it resonates, it reaches them and then it resonates. It just gets to the top of the priority again for them. But we'll go into more details into what exactly can be done to achieve that. Any other one over there?
No other questions right now. Let's keep going.
All right. So here I want to present to you what in our experience has been, what are the attributes, okay, that if you as a VP of marketing or as a marketing department establish and do very well and excel at, your organization is going to appreciate you more, and your customers as well. So see, these are 6 things that we have identified that we know that if you do really well, you likely are going to be one of the top VPs marketing today, period. And cross-checking interests from what's interesting for a venture capitalist versus what's interesting for a customer. This seems to be the crossroad between all those things. What's interesting for your CEO? What does he want? What does the customer want? What does the VC want? Okay, so number one is get the message right. If you can get that one thing absolutely fine-tuned, make sure that the message is right, that resonates, that is relevant, that is timely, you've done a lot right. A lot of these things wouldn't happen when, I'll say, a lot of the conversions start dropping when the message stops being relevant. It gets flat. And then, like I said, conversions drop and sales start getting affected. So get the message right and fine-tuned is one of the best and most important things that you can do as a VP marketing. Having a high-quality funnel is very, very important. And you achieve a high-quality funnel by doing segmentation right. So having the right kind of attributes. You have a lot of technology right now to gather information about the people that are inquiring in your website or on your landing pages. If you're asking things like, country or industry or company size, a lot of those things are things that you can append by having a technology into, connected to your CRM and get that kind of information behind the scenes without ever asking for it. Just all you need is the email and then append all this information or demographics behind. So having a high quality funnel where you can have the right information and then can fine tune the message to that specific lead is very, very important. It's not about the size of the funnel, it's about the quality of it. Shorter sales cycles. This is likely going to be a result of the previous two. Because think about having a very persuasive landing page, for example, where a lot of people are inquiring, but then the first question when you talk to them or when the telemarketing department goes and picks up the phone and follows up, find out that they really didn't understand what you do. So the only thing you're doing is elongating the sales cycle. There's a lot of talk also about different views on presenting pricing, for example, on a website. So the more information you present before the first telephone communication, the more educated the buyer is, the shorter the cycle will tend to be. Because the sales cycle is usually measured from the time that there's active interest. Buyer is actually inquiring for request a quote or request a demo or a trial, all the way to close. And so if the buyer is well educated at the time of making that initial inquiry, the cycle is going to be shorter. And this impacts throughput, and contribution to sales, which is the natural effect. If you do these three things right, contribution to sales is going to be more and better. Increasing marketing ROI means for every dollar spent, how many actual high quality leads, sales qualified, are you getting back? And lastly is how do you nurture not only leads but also customers into a vibrant advocate community? How can you support the rest of your organization, your delivery, to continue to nurture those existing clients and get them to really become an advocate? So which programs do you have in place?
We're getting a question in that people are wondering, if you're in the early stages of this, how long does it take to get to that advocate community?
There's no right answer. I mean, you have to go through the stages of growth in your company, of course. I mean, if you're a raw startup, you're not there yet. I mean, you're just getting the first, the traction. You have to get the first few clients. And then as you go into hyper growth, you need to focus more on infrastructure and scalability. So I'll say once you're in the hyper growth stage and going into, market leading, this is the area where you need to really start nurturing that So it really, I mean, the timing depends on where your company is and the focus also. All right. The name of the game is growth-driven marketing. Growth-driven marketing can allow you to do and fine-tune all these things and make sure you're on top of it. So the name of the game is increase your marketing contribution to sales by thoroughly optimizing your web properties. If you can do this, at least that part of your marketing, will be taken care of very well. We see growth-driven marketing as a process that ultimately yields a consistent and predictable flow of leads. And there's 6 things that we personally have experience on, and this is actually what we specialize in Market8. 6 things that we can do to help close that gap between your current state and that future ideal state of your marketing. So number one is assess. So I'll go in detail into each one of these. First of all, find out where you are. Blueprint, fine-tune that messaging, make sure the messaging is right, and then how that will permeate into your web properties. Launch if you don't have or have an efficient website, because that's the core of your web, your marketing. Is it like your marketing central, your hub? So if that's deficient, that's something you need to address quickly. Grow is how do you enter this growth optimization process where you're looking iteratively at all the important things. What do you measure? A dashboard system that can allow you to always look real time. What are the important things to know, to measure, and make sure that these things are going in the right direction. And optimize. Optimize is really focused on the most expensive part of your marketing, which is typically the leads that you're actually paying for, advertising, pay-per-click, and things like that. So this, because it's a high pressure, highly sensitive area, you're putting dollars in there, so there's a special discipline to just focus on getting a return from those. This is like a micro focus of the growth bucket. So I'll go into each one of them. Let's start with assess. We call assess, really what it is a web properties growth audit. And before doing anything, I mean, it's better to have a clear idea of where things are and have at least a statement of a strategic vision. I have a quote here from John Nesbitt. The strategic planning is worthless unless there is a strategic vision. So this audit at the beginning, part of the things that's important to achieve is have that strategic vision first before you get into any kind of detailed planning. Just see where the things are and where do you want to go. All right, so I'm going to show you what's the old way or the traditional way that I have come across. No audit at all. No clear goals. No clear vision of where we need to go. And just get started. I mean, a lot of companies still are approaching us saying, hey, I just need to do a site rebrand or a site refresh or redesign the website. Just show me some quotes. Or that's the directive that they give to marketing directors or marketing coordinators. And doing that, I mean, you're looking at your website is important, but without all these other things, is going to be likely inefficient. It's not going to be the best results. So the smart way, I'll say, is first take a moment to assess what your current marketing initiatives are. What's your marketing spend? What's your current ROI on marketing? Benchmark versus industry standards and competitors, see what they're doing. Do a technical assessment, see what actually needs to happen behind the scenes on your website, what kind of integrations will make it more efficient now and in the future. What is your capability maturity? This is a model that, if you're not familiar with it, is just imagine like you rank everything in your marketing department, especially the web properties, in a scale of 1 to 5. 1 is it's random, and sometimes it gets done, sometimes it doesn't. There's certainly no process behind it, so it depends if somebody has the time to do it. 5 is you do it consistently with a process that is measured and continuously improved. And there's a process to continuously improve that. So if you rank everything from 1 to 5 there, then you have a pretty good idea of where the gap is, and you can start having an idea of what that project needs to look like in the short, mid, and long-term run. Scenarios, draw some scenarios of what will happen if you increase, marketing spend and, advertisement versus content versus etc. And some goal setting based on industry benchmarks, high-level roadmap of what needs to be done when, and a budget range that makes sense for the goals that have been set. And then if you do this, then you'll have, a very good first step in your journey to optimize your web properties. We got step number 2. If questions come along as I'm going through this, please interrupt me, okay? So number 2 is blueprint. And blueprint is one that says that you already have your audit, you know where you are, you know kind of like where you want to go. Blueprint is getting a good web strategy and a master plan with a lot more detail, with specific recommendations and things that need to be done. And this, a lot of the blueprint is about understanding your customers. Why do they buy from you? How do they learn? How do they engage? I have a quote from Edward Deming that drives a lot of what we do at Market8. This is the father of quality, if you're not familiar with Edwards. But this is the guy that started the total quality management in the 60s and 70s, and has been really a guiding star for manufacturing and logistics for a long time. And now I see, a lot of what he says and has done is applicable to marketing and overall design. So it says it is not enough to do your best. You must know what you do, then do your best. So this is what the blueprint is about. It's finding out what is that message, get the message right, and then lay out a web strategy. Like I was saying earlier, this is the one part that if it gets dull, if your message gets flat and stops resonating, your conversions are going to hurt, and likely your sales as well as a result of that. So a lot of this blueprint is getting that. The traditional way is ask the CEO, right? Just go and ask the big guy in the company and see what he has to say, and we'll just follow that. Tell your customers all about their features and the great things that your product and service do. Do some education about your solutions, have some PDFs, videos, etc. Well, there's a better way, because that's still intrinsic, that's still looking internally. The better way is ask your customers, and actually do spend some time and energy asking and finding out what your customers are actually thinking. Then you can also ask sales, who are speaking with customers all the time, ask the executives of the company, and you cross-reference everything. Look at competitors, see what they're doing. Understand customer behaviors across web properties. Likely your buyers are already doing something on your site. So what is it that they're doing? How can you extract information and data out of that can help you take better decisions? If you're doing search, pay-per-click, etc., understand what's the customer intent. What's the temperature or each one of those keywords that they're typing and they're arriving to your website with. What did they really want to find? Define specific market segments, really specific. Companies, I'll give you an example. Companies above 10 million in software may seem specific, but it's not that specific. You can go way more specific, and you know that. Companies 10 million and above, 10 to 50 million, with specialization in software. They create software, they have a VP marketing, they have, an email box, an email subscribe on their homepage indicating that there's interest in email marketing. They have salespeople in LinkedIn indicating that there's a sales consultative sales process. They have, at least 3 people in their marketing department indicating that they have the resources to spend on whatever your solution is. That kind of definition is specific and will give you better results Nowadays, there's technologies like Datanize or Built With it, where you can see the technology stack behind a company. I'm sure that for every industry, there's some kind of intel that you can gather to really, really nail down a specific segment. I'll tell you an example with Market8. Where, like, think about tools that are being used on a website, and there's two that we track among our prospects. One is a Google tracking. That means that they have some pay-per-click and they're tracking. They have that tracking code for pay-per-click on some of their pages, especially thank you pages. And whether or not they have, that's one, okay, and then whether or not they have a conversion optimization software loaded into their website, a script for like Optimizely or BWO. So that gives you immediately 4 segments. People that are spending on pay-per-click, that are not spending on conversion optimization is obviously a natural segment. People that have both tools, people that have none, or people that are doing optimization but not pay-per-click. So that's 4 different segments there that I can really go and target with specific message. So this is what I mean by specific market segments.
Eduardo, we have a question from a VP marketing of a SaaS firm, and they said that right now there is a push in their company to have their digital strategy align with the voice of the customer. So this is resonating with them, but they're curious about this approach, this blueprint stage, because they have to show results quickly. They're wondering if there's an impact to their web strategy during this phase, or do we wait until this phase is over before we implement anything?
Well, likely you have initiatives running currently. So I'm not suggesting with this that you stop everything you're doing and just wait until the results of the research come. But do the research anyway, and then start fine-tuning everything that you're doing along those. Like, for example, you're doing content marketing, or you're launching a campaign, but you know that it's kind of like spray and pray to a certain extent, because the market segment is not that well defined. And we can still go launch it and then define your segment, try to find a little bit more about your audience, and then refine-tune that campaign for that specific segment that you defined, or those specific segments that you defined. And in that way, you don't stop the activities that you have, but any future activity that you have, try to be more targeted, and likely you have better results. The conversions usually increase significantly the more specific your messaging is on a specific situation that you know that subsegment of customers will have.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So define buyer personas by segment is obviously the very next step to do. Craft messaging options to test for each one of those segments. Start by tweaking your most valuable site pages. This is something that is usually overlooked. Sometimes people go into a website redesign or take that as a first step of reigniting the journey into this growth-driven marketing or inbound marketing or ABM or whatever it is. So, well, first we need to redesign our site, and then they do a complete redesign, not looking at really what's getting affected or what's going to have a potentially a negative impact. So say, if you have already a website that is giving you some kind of results, start by tweaking the most valuable site pages first, the ones that explain what you do, and don't do everything else first. So like prioritize action items for those most important pages and user flows. And that's where you define wireframes and present your new message there. So it's all about agility. This shouldn't take a year before any action. I'm talking weeks before the next set of highly targeted actions take place. Hashtag do your homework. Let me go to the next phase, launch. This is, as I said, if you have a website that is already getting your results, maybe this phase is not really relevant for you, but if you have a website that is really not giving you what you need, or you're launching a new product, or basically you need to put something new in front of customers, then this is relevant. But this is a launch pad, like we call it. It's something that you start doing quick with the aim of continuously improving it. Mark Twain said, continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection, and that's the point. I mean, it's not a waterfall, it's really agile and it's iterative. So this launch is about putting in front of your customers the first iteration of your site, or your first improved iteration of your site. Okay, the traditional way, I'll tell you, we have seen a lot of this. A lot of marketers at all levels gravitating towards shiny objects. I have a call with CMOs that are telling me that they don't want to use a template. I mean, it's okay, but I mean, you can do magnificent things with a template. There's nothing wrong with a template. And even if you do custom, the focus should not be to gravitate towards shiny objects. I mean, there's better and higher level things that your organization will appreciate you pay attention to. Processes of redesign that are purely design oriented, we still see that today. I've seen very complex solutions of $100,000 plus eliminating a lot of copy because they have this assumption that the buyers don't read on the web, which is a wrong assumption, by the way. Make assumptions, never test them. You launch a website and then forget about it for 5 years. That's what has been the rule for decades, and then revisit the website 3 to 5 years. So likely you're going to have an underperforming website, like just in a few months, depending on how fast your company is growing and likely also how the market is changing. So a smart way, rather, is pick the most critical pages for your buyers. See where your buyers are gravitating to the most. Just pick those and fix those first. If there's any bugs or functionality issues, or you have a platform that is very difficult to maintain and it's just a roadblock in implementing any improvement, then fix that. Obviously fix that first. Design and content for top pages only. Top pages, I mean, again, the ones that are being visited the most by your clients or prospects. Test designs with eye tracking simulators before actually putting it out. There's very cheap eye tracking simulators that can give you, with 80% accuracy, how actually the customer, the buyer will look at that page and if there's any distraction on it. So it's like a more scientific approach to design. And this is not very difficult to do. I mean, in 5 minutes you have design, you put it to the test, and then you can make modifications quickly. Okay, develop for flexibility. This is something that is sometimes overlooked a lot. Design something really custom and really cool, but it's heavily coded on the back, and then it's a pain to maintain, and that hinders your ability to do experimentation quickly, or change text, or change the order of things on the page, eliminate or add sections. So flexibility is super, super important, and sometimes it costs a little more to develop a website that is flexible, because you have to develop these custom areas or custom modules that you can just like drag and drop. But in the long run, it will pay off, in an order of magnitude at least. So develop for flexibility. Make sure that you ask that question to your developers. Are they developing for flexibility and ease of editing, or are they doing something super custom that is just a pain to update? Preserve SEO authority. I mean, this is, if your website's already getting, a decent amount of visits, if you do a redesign, just make sure that part of the plan is to preserve the SEO authority. Make sure that you ask that question about, what's your approach to preserving that authority? I mean, what do you do? How do you handle if there's going to be a whole new area or new areas? How do you handle preserving at least the current performance, if not improving it? And again, launch quickly and iterate. So data trumps opinions is the hashtag here, because if you launch a site quickly, I mean, it also has to be based on data. Okay, not on a bunch of uneducated assumptions. So, okay, next stage, I would say, is grow. And this, once you launch your initial site and you go into this process of continuously improving not only your website, but all your web properties. I have a quote from Deming again here. If you can't describe what you are doing as a process, you don't know what you're doing. So try to, whatever you're doing, try to explain it in a series of steps. And if you can do that, then you need to get to work and define it better, because then you have not reached maturity in that process. So growth is all about activating that growth optimization process, okay? And the way I see it is the growth optimization process is a system, okay? It has to be a system, a series of steps, a methodology to maximize the performance across all the properties. The traditional way, and I see again a lot of agencies doing this and customers. Get the guru that is really, writes blogs and has a lot of experience, and get him just here to outline best practices to implement. Or go and do some research about successful A/B testing and then try to reproduce them. These are very uneducated approaches, because I hate personally the word best practices. There's no such a thing. I mean, there's some obvious things, usability-wise. There's some heuristics that you can apply. They come very handy when you have very low traffic or at the first step. But as a growth optimization process, you're going to go through those very quickly. And then if you don't have a process to continue to improve, you're going to get stuck and you can start doing random things that may hurt you. So here's a smart way. Establish a continuous improvement process. And the process is everything. Call it PDCA cycle, which is also a Deming's creation, Edward Deming's. It's plan, do, check, act. So, you go through an iterative process to look at everything in an order of priority. Set up and maintain a list of improvement ideas. Select what gets improved based on the hierarchy of needs. We have another podcast about this hierarchy of needs that explains, what basically address first things first, functional things first, persuasive things later, and then advocate level things later. So prioritize based on estimated value to the company. Means you're going to do the things that are likely to have a bigger impact on your sales, on your high quality lead generation, on your bottom line. I'll give you an example. I mean, what's more important? Thinking about testing your value proposition on your homepage, or putting pretty pictures for your team with motion when you hover over them in your about page. Well, I've seen a lot of cases in which the latter is prioritized over the former, whereas the value proposition on your homepage is likely viewed by, if not 100%, a very high percentage of people coming to your site or people approaching you. And the About Us page, in the, whether the picture moves or not, it's pretty irrelevant, actually. That's a shiny object. So prioritize all improvements based on estimated value or impact to your firm, okay? Execute improvements and test on agile methodology. That means that you're going to set up quick deadlines of, we use 8 weeks. Some people like to use, 4 weeks, depending on the speed at which you want to go and the resources you can put into this. You can shorten or elongate those sprints, have a specific set of deliverables, and then repeat. Then transfer learnings from to sale. This is something that is usually missed. Even if you have a system to improve, a lot of those learnings sometimes are captured only on the head of the person that is doing it, but if they're not documented, somebody else comes in or that person leaves the company, all those learnings and what we find out or what conclusions we derive from looking at buyers' behaviors online, or people that bought versus people that didn't buy. What did we see different? How was their behavior different online, and how can we learn? What can we learn and actually communicate into sales? Transfer learnings is one of the most important things of an optimization system. So full funnel optimization As I said, this is not only about your site pages, not only about your website. You can look at landing pages, you can look at nurturing campaigns, you can look at advertisement, you can look at how you're retargeting content offers. I mean, is the content offer resonating or not? Which content offers actually you should be writing about? Should we be writing about, I don't know, in my case here, conversion optimization, or should I be writing about how to create a value proposition, or should I be writing about how to design a website? And where is the interest? Campaigns and segmentation. You know, are your segments specific enough? So this methodology can be applied to all of this. It's not only about A/B testing a landing page. Okay, it's a process that can help you to improve continually everything on your marketing. So no process, no progress is the hashtag here.
This is great, Eduardo. This is great. We're getting a question, a similar question the last time, wondering when this growth optimization process begins. When do they start seeing results? Almost immediately, or does it take some time for buyers to come to the site and test things and then optimize the site? What's typical for the timing of results?
It also depends on two things. I mean, number one, how bad your current status is, because the first round of improvements can completely change the level of results. Sometimes, some occasions, you're already getting, you know, good results from your marketing, and you're just like applying this process to continually improve on it. So I think that's a slow, I won't say necessarily a slower process, but it's more challenging when you're already getting results, but it's never impossible to improve, you know. I'll say you get the most dramatic the first round. If you have traffic but no conversions, that's the fastest thing where you can experience, you know, the fastest improvements. If you don't have any traffic, then you'll see in our hierarchy of needs, I'll make sure to send a link about what that means. I mean, traffic is the first thing to build. If you don't have that, then it's going to be very difficult to see any kind of improvement in conversions. So it really depends on the specific situation. But I'll say if the homework is done well, you know, you're likely to see an uplift really soon, even in the launch, which is the previous step. And continues. I mean, we have cases you'll see a little later where results can be evident very quickly.
Okay, thank you.
All right, measure is the next one. For this, you know, we recommend you set up a dashboard system. The way we have done it is set up a dashboard that allows you to look at all the important things. So know your numbers. I mean, I don't know if you have visited Disaster Grow marketing webinars. There's one specific about how to hire a VP of marketing. And one of the things they're saying is like, well, if your VP of marketing doesn't know the numbers, just don't hire him. I mean, he has to know the numbers. I mean, this is like the name of the game today. Marketing is about data, and knowing the data is instrumental to do your job. So Deming again says, without data, you're just another person with an opinion. Which is right. I mean, a lot of decisions in the past have been taken based on gut, and there's a lot of data now. I mean, right now it's a mistake to take that approach. To measure everything that matters. Also, you can get lost in, you know, 1,000 metrics really quickly, but you need to get your KPIs selected and demonstrate your impact on the organization. So the traditional way, the way it has been approached in the past, is Google Analytics. Okay, let's go and look at, you know, audience, and the standard reporting comes from Google Analytics. This is, I will say, the pre-entry level. Pull custom reports every time the CEO asks for them. You know, we have to go to, I don't know, HubSpot or Oracle Marketing Cloud, or, you know, pull the data. I don't know if you're using Omniture or whatever it is that you're using. The CEO asks to see what's the return on marketing. Then we have to go put that together. And then another common thing is like measure like very simplistic things like traffic bounces, email opens, sound conversion rates based on the latest few campaigns. But sometimes if this is not automated, then you have a problem, because traffic and bounces, if they're not measured, for example, on a consistent time period, then you have inconsistencies from period to period, and it just becomes a mess really quickly to really understand what's going on. So recommendation here is actually to first identify the key metrics. What are the 8 to 10 things you need to measure that really matter? And then identify other indicators that support that, kind of like a balanced scorecard. You have one core metric, and each core metric has a series of other metrics that are likely to influence or have a cause-effect relationship with the key metric. You have to automate the dashboards. I mean, this data pulling nowadays manually is a mistake. I mean, there's so many tools out there. We have built a platform to automate that, so we can get dashboards overall and then by specific target segments. If we know that we're going after a specific segment, I don't know, country or a specific industry, and we can segment by that and pull data by that, then it's something that has to be done so you can keep your finger on the pulse of marketing. Set up thresholds and alerts, set up goals for each key metric. If they pass a certain threshold, you can set up an alert to send you an email. Utilize agile sprints to improve on particular metrics. So you cannot do everything at once, guaranteed, but you can identify, from those key metrics, which ones are the ones that you want to impact first, and have that vision documented and communicated to the organization. Hey, we're focusing on the first and most basic level of metric right now, which is traffic. Or later on, maybe you're focusing on conversion, or maybe later on you're focusing on stickiness and getting people back to the website. But have one specific goal around your improvement sprints. That's very, very important. Otherwise, you become unfocused very quickly. And then you have to, with nowadays, with all these connectors and APIs, it's very easy to connect different tools together, like connect the CRM to your analytics platform, to your marketing automation, to your accounting, to calculate meaningful measurements like customer acquisition cost or throughput. Okay, you can get very sophisticated in getting, connecting different tools to help you, get a better sense of how things are going. So what gets measured gets, complete the phrase, managed, improved. There's several versions of that one. The last one I have here is optimize. And this again focus specifically on marketing activities where you're spending money to get an eyeball. It's SEM or pay-per-click. So if you're not optimizing what happens after the click, then you have a big opportunity here. This is a quote by Avinash Kaushik. He says, "I came, I puked, I left." Because he thinks that, if you are looking at, if you're spending money on pay-per-click or advertisement, bounce rates, for example, is a very key metric, right? Because you want to make sure that the page and the message is relevant to that person that saw the ad. And bounce rate is a very good indicator of, whether that landing page that you put in front of them was the adequate one, whether the message was resonating or not. So I came, I puked, I left is something that you definitely want to avoid. And this is what the process of optimize is about. To stop writing checks your pages can't cash. If you're writing checks right now for advertising that are sending to pages that don't convert or don't capture that lead, then you have a problem. So traditional way is invest in AdWords, optimize campaigns, click-throughs. You have SEM experts that do a fantastic job of driving the click cost down. But then when it comes down to sending by a specific place that resonates, what happens after the clicks, that's where it breaks down. There's, I will say, 100 SEM firms to one conversion optimization firm. And that gives you an idea of how much money is being wasted there. So send buyers to the homepage or whatever, static landing page that doesn't get improved over time. So that's where a lot of money is leaking there, if that's happening to you. Smart way optimize the whole conversion journey. So make sure that you have, you measure the keyword intent, and you have mapped the buying journey and identify what the intent is and what are the likely keywords that buyers are searching for in each stage of that journey, and then optimize for that specific stage in the journey. Very, very important to do that. Formulate the offer to minimize friction. I mean, I've critiqued a lot of landing pages, and a lot of landing pages are actually put together really nicely, but the problem is the offer itself. There's too much friction. For example, get a free consultation, and that's the landing page that they're paying and putting a lot of money towards, and the conversion is really low, and the page has all the elements, has proof, has everything, but I mean, it's just the inherent friction is huge, because I mean, you're going from 0 to consultation, which is likely a sales call, in one landing page. I mean, that's very difficult to do. So break it up, and just make sure that you get the right objective for the right keyword intent, and you'll likely, maximize your conversions there. Message match, about that. Survey your buyers, make sure that you know what they want. Set up diagnostics, scroll maps, click maps, and really study those landing pages, especially the key ones, the ones that are getting the most traffic. Record user sessions to really see where people are getting stuck. Improve based on conversion frameworks, and have a methodology behind it. Track your ROI for sure, and optimize iteratively. I mean, it's very unlikely that in one shot you're going to get an optimized page. I mean, optimized by definition is trying different things, formulating a hypothesis, and then trying them out and see until you get a plateau. You get to a plateau of results. And the hashtag is zero waste, because if you're not doing that, you're simply wasting money. And I urge you to rather keep some of that cash for vacations or something else. It's probably more productive.
Okay, great. So can we ask the question about how to get started with this? How do you get started? I mean, if you don't know where you're at, you don't know where you're at in the hierarchy of needs, you're not quite sure what your website needs. Are we going to get to that, or can we ask that question now?
Well, I can answer briefly. Just like that's why the first step is the assessment. You have to find out exactly where you are, because you may or may not think some of these 6 components that I have laid out here, and there's only ideas that we can give you based on that assessment, but it really depends. If you're referring specifically to number 6, the optimize, then you can start right away. If you are spending money on pay-per-click or in advertising, you have to start right away with this. I mean, there's no reason to wait. For all the rest, optimizing or setting up a system for optimizing your entire web property, platform, then of course we have to do an assessment and do it smart. Otherwise, it's just another random act of marketing. Make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Yep.
So what's the impact? And I'm just going to show you a couple of examples of results we have achieved with some of our clients. We have the Interest Group. It's one of our clients that is with us on the growth optimization model. We're doing things with them every single month, and we have had some fantastic results from this exercise. This is a company that added, I can't express really the actual amount, but it's 7 digits in additional lifetime value in about 4 months of working on this process. Of course, this is, I won't tell you that this can happen for everybody. This company has a certain amount of revenue. It's in the 8-digit level. We have a lot of traffic coming to the website, 30,000 or so visits. So of course, this is going to be a situation where we can just ramp up results really quickly, because there's a lot of material to work with. There's a lot of content. So it's great. It was basically in working within identifying and prioritizing and following this methodology to work on the highest impact stuff all the time, always, we're able to increase the contribution to sales from 13 to 20% so far. Goal is to take them above 30. We have therefore, achieved these results. Let me show you another example. E3 is a software maker they make electrical design software. It's like a CAD or CAE, computer-aided engineering software, to basically design electrical circuits, electrical boards. And there's several tools and sell to engineers. They had a website that just did not educate the buyer. Now they do have a website that educates the buyer. And in 12 months, they were able to book 4,000 SQLs, which is like a 400% improvement on what they had before. And actually, the leads are better quality. Usually, you will hear that it's a trade-off between quality and quantity. Well, in this case, quality and quantity went up. And part of this is that we established the whole process with them, not only looking at improvement in conversions on the site, but actually how the leads will be handled after the click-through. If somebody requests a trial or demo, this is enterprise software, so it's not like you're buying, a license for Twitter, or Basecamp. It's not that easy. So it has to be a process of education. So how you handle that lead in terms of whether it can actually turn into sales or not.
Thanks for joining Market 8 for the webinar today. We are known in the market as growth optimization specialists because we help our clients increase their marketing contribution to the bottom line. And we do this through optimizing their website assets. We've helped more than 200 firms launch and manage their websites. In fact, HubSpot has recognized us for an International Performance Award, 2 Impact Awards, and 9 Hermes Awards, including 4 Platinum B2B website awards. So check us out on market8.net. You'll see that our clients range from startups in the growth phase all the way to mature enterprise clients. So check us out, market8.net. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining.